Welcome back to History, friends. Today is Monday, April 13th, and we are going to be wrapping up our unit on ancient China this week. I know many of you are going, yay! That does, however, mean you do have a test this week, so hopefully you are studying and preparing for that test. You've got your history packet. That study guide in the back is going to be very useful to you, so hopefully you've got all those answers from last week's video. But today for history, before we move on away from ancient China, I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't let you learn about the Silk Roads. So today in our world, we're well aware of the fact of how interconnected we are, right? I mean, there is this widespread pandemic that very quickly has circled the globe, and it just helps us to maybe be a little bit more aware of, wow, it's not really that big of a world after all. I know, many of you are Disney fans and you're at home and you're thinking, it's a small world after all. Yep, it is a small world after all, and part of that is from the Silk Roads. So the Silk Roads are these roads that were used as trade routes throughout ancient China, but they didn't start off that way. The way the Silk Roads first started was actually related to battle. So there were, in the Han Dynasty, several barbarians that would be attacking different folks as they were traveling along. So the Han Dynasty wanted to help do something about this, so they started traveling into more of central China to look for help, and they found it. They found huge horses that this other group of people had that helped them to win the battle against these barbarians and fight them off and make for safer travel. So as that happened, these trade routes began to expand and they traveled further and further westward. The reason why they're called the Silk Roads isn't because they were made of silk. I mean, can you imagine a road made of silk? I don't think so. That probably wouldn't be such a good idea. But silk was the #1 commodity of ancient China at this time. Actually, the ancient Chinese are the only ones who knew how to take the silkworm and turn it into that very soft, delicate fabric, and they did a beautiful job making beautiful silks of all kinds of varieties. So they would take that silk, that very valuable commodity, with them along these routes, and they would trade for other goods. They also took their paper. We learned that in a previous video that they invented paper, and yes, even toilet paper, and they would take those and travel along and trade. Much like some of you may be doing today, trading toilet paper for other goods. I don't know, maybe that's occurring out there in this weird world that we're living in. But anyhow, so they would use the Silk Roads as their travel. Now the rulers at the time were very strict. They actually had the axles on the cart had to be the exact same size so that the ruts in the road would all be the same. Kind of an interesting fun fact there. But nevertheless, trade expanded, and with that expansion, the Chinese began to be able to bring in goods too. And it wasn't just mighty horses that they brought in, but other foods. We saw that grapes were introduced to the Chinese at this time. Sesame and onion are brought into their foods. So they're benefiting from these trade routes as well. And you'll see in the video that you watch later that this expands even beyond Egypt into even American colonization. So the Silk Road is our first evidence of this very intricate expanded trade routes where we see people groups trading goods. Not unlike the Phoenicians and how they were trading overseas, we have the Chinese trading over land primarily here. Let's see here. So I do want you to check out that video on the playlist called The Silk Road. And I'd also like you to read pages 274 to 277. That's going to give you background information on that really strict Qin dynasty. Now that's before the Silk Road. If you want to do some more reading about the Silk Road in particular, to learn more information on that, you will find that in your history textbook on pages 280 through 281. Now that's not a required reading for you, but if your interest has been piqued, you watch the video and you want to learn more, you can read about the Silk Road on those pages. All right, friends, make sure you're taking time to study for that history test. You're going to start it tomorrow, and make sure you review through that packet. All right, I love you guys. We'll see you later. Bye.